Hello, I'm bekkiflaherty and today we're going to be making this cool swimsuit pattern. This is very much a beginner level tutorial, although if you've never made a pattern in Procreate using the diamond method before, then you might want to start with this video and take a look at this one, which has a complete introduction into this way of making patterns in Procreate. If you're somebody that likes to understand the why as well as the how, that video has all of that covered. But if you're happy just following along with what I do in this video and doing that on your screen, then that will work just fine. For accessibility, all of my videos have fully edited subtitles and the different sections in this video are all listed in the description, so if you want to go ahead and skip to the beginning of the tutorial, you can do that now. This pattern is just one from a new series of patterns I'm working on, and at the end, if you follow along with them all, you'll have a full collection just like this. We'll be making all the motifs with this free stamp brush from the Pattern Makers Toolkit over on my website. It's got all of the motifs in there for you to trace over and help you get off to a quick start. The Pattern Makers Toolkit is free to join and I'll put a link for that in the description. I'm also going to be using my Pattern Makers canvas and brush set. Just download that from iCloud. It's got these seamless textures layers all built into it. These are fully seamless at 12 inches. And then the layer structure here that I'm going to be using, that comes with the set. If you don't have the Pattern Maker canvas, you can still follow along with this tutorial. You'll just need to add a new layer, and on an empty layer, just draw a diamond like this one that goes off the edges like that. It doesn't have to be fancy, it doesn't have to be straight. It's easier if it is, but it will still work. And you just need an empty diamond like that on an empty layer. So we'll just get rid of this and then I'll explain everything else as we go along. So this one is going to be swimsuits, so I'll grab my swimsuit brush there, the first one, and on this layer that says draw here first, I'm going to start on this one. This is an empty layer above the sketch diamond. So I'll just stamp that on an empty layer, add another layer above it, grab the next brush, stamp that one on there, add a new layer, and then put one of these on that layer. And then I'm going to use the transform tool to move these around the canvas and line them up. Turn snapping and magnetics off for this. And then once we've got those first three in place, we can then duplicate these to fill some of the rest of the space down here. And you can do things like flipping them and rotating them to get a bit of interest built into the pattern. So now we've got those few in, I'm going to pinch all of these down onto one layer and then merge them down with the sketch diamond, and then I'm going to build these out around the outside to see how these gaps need filling. So we'll duplicate this layer, tap to transform, and we'll turn the snapping and magnetics on. Then we're going to snap this down here into the corner until you see these orange lines there. Then we duplicate the bottom layer again and bring this up into that corner there, and then repeat for these two as well. Then you can pinch to merge those top four layers together, and I'm going to tap and invert the colour. So now that we can see where the motifs are going to go around the outside and how these are lining up on the edges, we can then adjust this one and fill it with some more motifs. So on my pink layer here, with freehand select tool, I'm going to shuffle this one around. There we go. And then I think we've got space for one more in here. And then probably just need to move the others around a little bit. So let's try moving that there. I'll add a layer and put one of these on there. And what we can do with these is adjust the spacing as well. So on this swimsuit here, we can bring that up and add a bit more length on there to help fill the spaces a bit better. And so that I can see how this one is going to fit with that space a bit better, what I'm going to do is bring this down here instead. So on this layer, I can just cut around this one and bring it down here because it's this same motif, but if I put it down here, I can see where it's going to line up a bit better. And then, so that it's a bit less confusing, I can go onto this one and just erase that green underneath there. And I think at this point I'm going to merge all my pink bits together, delete the green, and we'll reapply that around the outside. So now we can move these around again just to get the spacing a bit more fine-tuned. And this is the really nice thing about using the diamond method, where you get your sketch worked out first before you draw the motifs, because if we were transforming finished motifs, with every little transformation they would get fuzzier and fuzzier and fuzzier, just like these are. But because these are in our sketch layer, it's okay, and we'll get them in our final position, and then when we trace over them in our pattern layer, they'll be in the right place and the image quality will be good. Okay, so I'm going to do one more test of this now, just to make sure that it's lining up with everything nicely. And I'm happy with the layer on that, so now we're ready to start illustrating. So I'm going to turn on my pattern group, and on this layer here, we're going to illustrate the motifs in plain white and then colour over them with a scribbly colour layer. So I'm going to grab my tracing crayon from my Pattern Maker canvas brush set, and I'm just going to draw over all of these parts. And you'll see when we zoom in here, we've got this nice crispy textured edge there, as opposed to the soft edge there where this has been transformed and rotated. And that's why we want to draw all these in their final positions. Then we can fill all of these with colour drop fill. Then we need to knock out this gap here. So we're going to duplicate this layer, come up to our adjustments, tap on Gaussian blur and put a Gaussian blur of 3%. Then we're going to hide this blurred layer, tap to select, and we want automatic selection, tap on the negative space, not the filled space, and we want to adjust our selection until it's kind of halfway between the edge here and the bit we want to fill. So you can see you can adjust that like that. Then we want to invert it, add a layer, and then tap to fill this layer, and that's going to fill the inside of these shapes and knock out that gap there. Then you can just delete the blurred layer and pinch those two together, and now those are all nicely solid shapes. So now I'm going to change the background colour to the one I intend to use, which is this light blue colour here. It's going to make these a little bit hard to see, but we're going to be colouring over them now, so that's okay. So add a layer above this and then clip it down to it, and we're going to scribble our colour over the top of this layer. If you want a really easy way to recolour, then you could do each of these colours on a separate layer, but I'm going to do all of mine on the one layer because it's still going to be easy to recolour those with Alpha Lock. But if you want ultimate editability, then each of these colours we're going to add now, you would want to do each of those on a separate layer. I'm going to use my fun sketcher brush, and first of all I'm going to start with this green colour and just scribble in over this swimsuit here. And then I'm just going to pick a different colour for each of these swimsuits. Now, these look really cool in just those plain rainbow colours, but I think it would also look really nice if we put some patterns onto the swimsuits themselves. So I'm going to add another layer above this and clip this one down as well. And I'm going to come up here to my actions, canvas, and I'm going to turn on the drawing guide. I'm going to edit the drawing guide, and I'm going to use this to help me place some patterns like stripes and polka dots on there. So I want to reduce the grid size. We'll do this one first, and I'm going to do some fairly large polka dots on this one. And we'll just grab this green node up here and just put that at a slight angle. And then I'm going to tap done. And then with a white and using my mini dot brush, I might make that a bit bigger. And then where these lines are intersecting, I'm just putting those dots on there. And then we'll do some smaller dots now. So we'll change our drawing guide again. Make the grid size a bit smaller again. And then for these three here, we'll do stripes. So I'll just grab the tracing crayon. I'm going to change the angle up on these as well. Using the grid and the drawing guide like this is a really fun way to build kind of a bit of regularity into your patterns, but still have that wobbly hand-drawn feel to them. If you want more precise lines, you can turn drawing assist on, and then you'll only be able to draw in straight lines. Like, you can't draw wiggly lines at all. But I like it to look slightly wobbly, so I'm leaving drawing assist off for these. So now we can turn the drawing guide off. And all that's left to do now is add our line work on. So we'll do that on a separate layer. And again, as with the other patterns in this series, I'm using a duplicated version of my line detail brush, and all I've done is gone into stabilization and I've turned everything off in streamlining so that it's nice and scribbly as opposed to smoother with the original brush. So I've still got the original there, and this is just a new duplicated version of that. And then I'm just going to go and trace over all of these ties on the bikinis, and I'm also going to, again, echoing the thread that's going through all of the patterns in this collection, I'm going to do kind of like a little bit of a loose line around the outside of some of it as well. And then finally, we're going to add a few dots to this so that it matches the other patterns as well. So I'm going to grab my mini dot, and I'll do these in white to start off with. And I know these are kind of difficult to see on this background. Let's invert this layer. There we go. So now I'm going to duplicate this layer, alpha lock the top one, and add some colour to these. So now that layer underneath, I'll invert that again. So that's now back to white underneath. I'm going to duplicate this swimsuit layer as well. I'm going to tap on the swimsuit layer we've just duplicated, and also swipe right on the white dots. I'm going to tap to transform, turn snapping and magnetics off, and I'm just going to drag it down slightly this way again so we get that little offset kind of misprint type of thing going on there. Then we can turn our pattern marker off and also hide our sketch folder. And that is all of the illustration done for this now. The rest will be made by building it out around the edges. So let's look at how to build out this pattern tile now. You can either duplicate your pattern folder and flatten it, or if you're running short on layers and don't have enough layers to copy that, you can just turn off your background layer. You'll need to turn off the sketch layers as well at this point. And then you can swipe down with 3 fingers, copy all, come up to the outside of your layers group here, swipe down again, and then tap paste. Now you can turn off your layers because we don't need those anymore. Those are all there, safe and protected if we need to edit anything later. I'm going to grab my colouring crayon brush, or any brush really, and just go all the way off the edges of these 2 corners here. That is going to allow me to, when I duplicate this group, grab the whole layer, and then we can offset the same way as we did before. Snapping magnetics on, and then we can snap these down into the corners there. I'll turn the background colour back on. Then duplicate this bottom layer again, and it's exactly the same as when we were duplicating our sketch layers. This is where it gets exciting, and you can see how the pattern's looking. Then these top 4 layers, pinch those together and erase those marks in the middle, and then the ones that we drew down here on the corners. Then we can merge those together. And there we go, that's now a finished pattern tile. The great thing about using this diamond repeat is that it will mean you get no gaps when you upload to Spoonflower, but before we save and export, we'll always do a quick test here in Procreate. So I'm going to turn my textures on again now, and swipe down with 3 fingers and tap copy all. Come up here to the very top layer, swipe down again and tap paste. Then I'm going to add a layer underneath it and fill this one with a really dark colour. That way, when we transform things around, if there's any gaps in there, that black will show through and we can see if there's anything wrong before we export it. So this layer we've pasted in, I'm going to tap to transform and I'm going to snap this up here into the middle there. Orange lines intersecting, and we can see 1800 pixels there. Then we'll duplicate that, snap it over to the right, and then we can zoom in here on the seam and just check that there's no semi-transparent gap down there. And that's looking good, so we can merge those two together and duplicate that, and then bring it down here and zoom in there and check the top and bottom seams, and they're looking okay. So we can get rid of that black layer, and I'll just merge those two together for now. Don't forget, you can get all of these stamp brushes plus this palette I've used in the Pattern Makers Toolkit. It's kind of like a Patreon group and it's free to join. You'll get access to all the resources in the Pattern Makers Toolkit on my website, including those I make for my Skillshare classes. If you want to learn more about my Procreate to Photoshop workflow and showing you how I use this diamond method in my professional workflow using automations and smart objects, you can find that over on Skillshare. If you're new to Skillshare and you sign up using the link below, you'll get an extra 30 days for free. That's all from me, and don't forget to subscribe here if you want to see more pattern tutorials like this every Wednesday. Have fun, stay creative, and I will see you soon.